Hello, welcome to Revelator Alf Live, the live show here. It's a radio podcast thing, and it's a Monday morning, and basically going to be going through all the weekend results, or the weekend news, and all the latest news. So I'm just going to bring up the websites now, just make sure I'm getting the right one here. Is this it? Yes, brilliant. Right, let me just do that. And do that. Okay, I had it all planned. Out, and right at the last second, it all went a bit Pete Tong. So this is the Daily Biker show, or the Bike Mag show as well. It's a radio podcast thing, so anything goes, anything you want to talk about. I've got the chat open, and that's ready for anybody just to put any comments in, whatever you want. It is a Monday morning, so I thought, well, I'm trying different hours of the day, just to see which is best, really, which works best for everybody. So let's just see, wherever you are in the world, let us know your chat, let us know your thoughts. That's an old one. I need to change the ticker there. What should we put in the ticker here? I can't, yeah. There we go. Not Monday morning blues. How about that? There we go. Let's have a bit more. It's more of a sunshiny morning, a nice bright morning. So I've got my coffee on the go. It's on the heater. It's being heated lovely. Hope you had a good weekend out there, whatever you were doing over here. Where I was, the weekend was nice, actually, not too bad. I'm just going to do the show. Then I was at a bit of... did quite a bit of testing yesterday of various studio stuff, live stream stuff as well, on different formats as well. So I've been trying to work this morning with different camera setups. So here's I've got a second cam up here as well. There is another third cam which I've got, but doesn't seem to be working right now. So I'm just kind of working off two right now. I don't really need the second cam, but I thought it would just add a little bit of fun, really. Let me just get that out of shots. There we go, and up we get. There we go, like that. And hopefully you'll be able to hear me all okay as well. So there's quite a bit of news coming out this morning. A bit of products out with the motorcycle world, and some little interesting stories. I would imagine the next couple of hours you're going to get a little flurry of stories coming through as well. So I'll keep on checking the feeds as I'm talking to you, and seeing what's what. So if there's anything brand new coming out. But anyway, so I thought I'd start off with. Let me put that back there as well. As I say, this is really all about the news as it happens, really, and also about the bike news out there. So let me just break this out here. Right. So one of the first things to come out with Triumph motorcycles. Obviously, they've had a link up with Bajaj motorcycles from India for a while now, and they basically had a bike that was supposed to come out in 2022, at the end of 2022, is now likely to be out shortly, 2023. And there'll be a lot of new motorcycles and scooters hitting the streets of India in 2023. So India, obviously the biggest global market for motorcycles, is expecting a lot more. But they're saying this joint venture here, and this is from DNAindia.com, basically saying this joint venture from Bajaj and Triumph is the source of the most anticipated product in this segment. Both the 250 and the 400cc engines being developed by Bajaj and Triumph are said to use liquid cooling for their single-cylinder designs. So the Bajaj Triumph collaboration is set to produce 4 distinct motorcycle designs: a modern classic roadster, a scrambler, a cafe racer, and a flat tracker. So look, this is, Triumph. They're definitely getting in on the action, teaming up with the Indian motorcycle manufacturer, just like KTM, just like BMW. See, this is where I'm talking about, big players in the motorcycle market collabing and producing small CC motorcycles that have, lots of cool stuff. Let's just get rid of that. Don't need that. So they're basically saying, it's a flat track racer. That's 8 new bikes, assuming the manufacturer launches 4 different designs powered by each of these engines. However, a 250 engine may be too weak for a flat tracker, so 400cc may be the sole option for this kind of motorcycle. They're basically saying 250cc is 30 horsepower, 400cc is 40 horsepower, dual channel anti-lock brakes. That was quite a big thing for India, I believe, this year. Also, I think Continental had just come out with a new ABS system as well already the last month or two. Slipper and assist clutch, fully digital instrument cluster with Bluetooth connection, 17-inch wheels, an adjustable monoshock rear suspension, LED headlamps, tail lights, indicators, upside down forks at the front. All possibilities, they're saying. Okay, so nothing's confirmed here. But they're basically looking at motorcycle collaboration between 2 big players in one in more conventional Western markets, obviously the one in the Indian market. The one, Bajaj, is more renowned for small cc. They've collabed to produce 250 and 400cc motorcycles. Hey, there could be a lot here. There could be a lot for, for people just to be, sink their teeth into. So it'd be really interesting to see these bikes coming out from Triumph and Bajaj as well, and also whether they'll be available for the Western market as well. And I certainly hope so. I certainly, because when I talk about value and price and everything like that, if you've got bikes that are produced and they're producing them well, why not export them to the UK or to Europe as well initially, and maybe to other parts of the world as well, maybe South America, maybe obviously Africa, anywhere else in the world, why not? Small bikes, smaller cc bikes, get out there, let's do it. So that's Triumph and Bajaj with a nice little collab there. Here, this is a bit of an interesting story. This is from marketplace.org, where they're basically saying, looking about Harley Davidson, but really Livewire, the Livewire subsidiary. And basically, Harley Davidson told investors on Thursday that it had a pretty good close to 2022. Global motorcycle shipments were up 18% in the fourth quarter to the year before. Okay, that I've talked about this before. That's misleading because that is just shipments. That's not sales. That could be the manufacturer. Well, that is the manufacturer. It's not could be. That is the manufacturer just pushing out loads of motorcycles to the dealerships so that they say that they can push out motorcycles. Doesn't mean that they're being sold anyway. But the news is not so great for Livewire, and I've sort of talked about this before, and the market has got hold of this. Harley's electric motorcycle business revenue was down 28%. They obviously lost a lot of money. Harley spun out Livewire in a separate entity last year, though it still owns most of it. GMC all-electric Hummers and all-electric Ford F-150s are flying off the shelves, and the demand for electric scooters is strong too. And I've talked about this before as well. Small electric motorcycles, small electric scooters are on the rise. There's definitely a demand for that. The more expensive electric motorcycles, not so much so, right? Not so much, or definitely not as much at all. So when the Tobacco Road Harley-Davidson dealership in Raleigh, North Carolina, was carrying Livewire bikes a couple of years ago, there were customers who wanted to check them out. They see how fast it is, how nimble it is, how easy it is to shift. Shift it in what way? There's no gears, so it's just one, twist and go type thing. Say Casey Harrell, the dealership's manager, and maybe just to move along. But for true Harley lovers, there was often deal break. They missed the sound, Horrod said. They wanted that rumble. They wanted to make that noise when they're coming down the road. Yeah, so whilst there's a price issue, it is the complete change of motorcycle feeling that people didn't go. So obviously, this is the story goes on and on. Interesting story, marketplace.org. Go check it out if you're interested. But that's it kind of reaffirms, if you've got a motorcycle manufacturer that is synonymous with a type of motorcycle or a feeling of a motorcycle, big V-twin, rumble, that kind of thing, then then having electric bikes, it's the antithesis. Is that the right word, the antithesis? Or it's the opposite of it, basically. It doesn't quite work. Good morning, Scoot. Hi, how are you? I'm struggling along, would you believe? It's just weird. I'm just in a certain... I'm feeling good, then I'm feeling rough, then I'm feeling good, and feeling rough. But anyway, I'm fine this morning, thank you. Just still coughing and clearing my throat, I'm afraid. But there we go. So, I mean, that's the latest story there from there. Here's a nice little story coming out of New Zealand. I thought I'd talk about this. Burt Munro, who was basically a straight line racer, the fastest Indian motorcycle film, that was basically about Burt Munro, of course. And he went out to Bonneville Salt Flats and, broke records and everything, just on a little home-built bike. And he basically built it in his shed, right? And it was just... But anyway, there's a whole festival. There has been a whole festival going on in New Zealand and lots of different things. And they had to cancel it for COVID last couple of years and stuff. But obviously there's lots of events going on, and sort of track racing. There's some beach racing, all sorts of stuff. So it's it's and this goes on to talk about the film and of Munro as well. This is from stuff.co.nz, New Zealand publication as well. But that was nice. It's nice that they've got an event in memory of somebody like that. So I thought it was really good. Another story, kind of similar vein, really, I suppose. This is a Malay return to Margate, which is in the southeast of England, just southeast of London, for a weekend of inappropriate motorcycle sand racing. I like that, inappropriate motorcycle sand racing. So much of this sometimes gets a really bad name, where kids take their dirt bikes and everything, but obviously it's in an organised event, and there's another big organised event like a Western Supermare, but this is really good. So luxurious motorcycle luggage providers Malay will return to the sands of Margate this weekend for a weekend of beach racing excitement. The Malay Mile Beach Race 2023 will take place on May the 13th to the 14th, 2023, and invites riders of custom, classic and electric machinery to race head-to-head on the Kentish seafront, as well as enjoy live DJ. So it's going to be a whole big event. This actually be quite a good event to go to. This is for May 13th to 14th. So if you're in the area, if you're in the UK, go check it out. There we go. There's my little plug for that event. Aren't I a good egg? Eh? Scoot, I rode the Livewire, of course. The price puts you off and the infrastructure is crap, but it certainly goes, and I am no diehard HE rider, even though I've been riding them for years. I think it's a common thought, really, on the Livewire as a Harley-Davidson product, let's say, from Harley-Davidson riders. They like it where it rides and all that sort of stuff. But obviously, for many, they look at the price as well, and stuff like that. Okay, let's look at this next one. This is, I kind of covered this before, so I'm just going to briefly mention it. This is from morebikes.co.uk, and basically they're saying the Fuel Flow is the world's most advanced electric motorcycle. This is the Eric Buell motorcycle. And they're basically saying Eric Buell or Buell is back. It is, they've got the Buell motorcycle, but it's Fuel Flow. And I've talked about this in previous shows. But they're saying the Fuel Flow is designed to be the ultimate urban e-commuter, and it's an electric bike. Basically, Eric Buell moved from internal combustion engine bikes into electric bicycles and motorcycles. And this is kind of the first incarnation. These are the first bikes that come into market. The Fuel Flow is designed to be the ultimate urban e-commuter, a range of 150 plus miles on a single charge. It's fast charging too, so in under 30 minutes you get back out on the road again. It's also capable of 85 miles an hour, 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds, and has a startling 750 Newton meters of torque. This is a wallop. But how much is it? I mean, it has 50 litres of storage space, plenty for your laptop and work files. Yeah, great. I'd say this is a great, very futuristic looking, isn't it? Very futuristic looking. And I think this would be a great urban commuter, great little bike. But how much does it go? Oh, hey, hello. Price is also quite attractive, said to be under £10,000. So this is what I'm on about. When you've got electric bike motorcycles, and here, this is from Eric Buell or Fuel. sub 10,000 or 10,000 mark, you're starting to make motorcycles, electric motorcycles, even the high performing ones, a lot more attractive. When you've got electric motorcycles of 15, 20, 25,000 pounds, dollars, shekels, whatever it is, that's a bitter pill to swallow. But when you've got it, small scooters, electric scooters, or low powered ones like Maving, which they sent me an email yesterday saying, hey, do I want to ride a bike? It's a generic email, not to me personally, but they, if I'm, I'm very appealing in many ways. I like the design, I like the look, and as a small little bike, just as a little commuter electric bike, yeah, I can see it. And this again, these kind of bikes now that are kind of coming down in price, but pack a punch in terms of performance, as I say, if you're not, again, range for me is a big thing as well, but if you're just doing, you live on the edge of town and you're just going into the centre of town or the city and back again, that kind of thing, short distances, just a day where you can put it back on charge at the end of the day, or you're not going to be using it, long journeys. It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. I don't, if you know me, I don't necessarily believe in the E argument, in terms of the electric vehicle argument as being the only solution. I don't necessarily think that it is the only solution when it comes to in terms of the motorcycles of the future, in terms of electric vehicles versus internal combustion engines, especially internal combustion engines again using alternative fuels. I don't think it's the only answer, but I also don't fully buy into the fact that these are green, environmentally friendly bikes, because you got to look at energy production, you got to look at the expense to the environment to improve the infrastructure, the charging infrastructure, and also the production of the energy in the first place as well to charge them. So yeah, Scoot, hydrogen, there's lots of different movements in that market right now, or alternative fuels, alternative fuels, I suppose, as a way. Synthetic fuels. Here, the next story here from Motorcycle News. Good little story here. Rally Raid kit. This is for the Yamaha Tenere. The Tenere World Raid into all the bike you will ever need. So basically, they're talking about different updates here. UK-based component specialist Rally Raid Products have turned their attention to the Yamaha Tenere 700 World Raid, which is, very, very decent bike. It is. It's just a great bike. And after huge success that they had with the original T7 machine, Rally Raid took delivery of one of the first T7s in the country after owner John Mitchison spotted its potential, but he knew even before riding it the suspension would need some work for the rough stuff. So basically, this is an upgrade that would just make it immense, right? So Yamaha known for bulletproof engines, but when they launched, it was a cheap bike, so they must have saved money somewhere, says John. Well, that's a bit... Okay, it's one person's opinion. We designed a whole range of parts for that bike, including multiple different front and rear suspension kits, and they've sold well. So yeah, if you're looking to upgrade your bike, and especially in that off-road world, then Rally Raid, provide products that you just essentially bolt on and away you go, and you've got a kick-ass bike. So yeah, decent there, decent. Okay, the next here, this is a story I'm going to keep on coming back to, but basically talked about wholesale price of fuel in the UK and all around Europe and how it went up, and it says here almost went to £2 a litre here in this country, which would basically been prohibitive for many people. But wholesale prices rose by 2p a litre in January, and diesel is 3p. I still don't understand why diesel has to be that much more expensive than petrol here in the UK. It's ridiculous because it's inflationary. You add... Most vehicles of commercial nature are run on diesel, so therefore if your prices are 10, 20, 30 pence more, 20 pence more than petrol, then obviously it's a massive inflation. But ridiculous. But they're basically talking, it just goes on and on. the RSE predicts the rise of average petrol prices to around 155 per litre. Yeah, and the price could go up even more if the Chancellor wants to add a little bit more. It's ridiculous. And it just goes on and on and on. Politics, greed here, and it just goes on and on. I mean, when you talk about switching to electric bikes, I mean, this is a big reason why people would switch to electric vehicles, of course, because if petrol prices or diesel prices are just going to go up, but also it prevents leisure mobility, so people or halts leisure mobility. And I've certainly done this myself. I'll let you know exactly. This is exactly what I've done. I've cut out as much of unnecessary journeys as I can, and one of the reasons is to try and save money. It's all about that. So I would say to people, if you're not going to make journeys, don't have to make journeys, don't, and use alternative forms of transport, or walk or cycle or whatever. But in terms of using motorcycles, for example, yeah, I've whilst I'm still riding, I've cut out a lot of, let's say, for example, the YouTube channel, right? I'll always try and make content on the motorcycle, and it's always the same, isn't it? It's always the same. You get somebody who's watching this, or somebody who's watching one of my videos when I'm just here in the studio, and they'll say, "Hey, I think you should just go and ride your bike," and and it's just like, I ride my bike every day, you idiot, But just because I don't show it on the camera, it doesn't make any difference, right? But the point I'm making is that actually I would go out and actively ride the bike to make YouTube content. So I'd ride it for longer. I'd ride it to different places on purpose. But now, the last few months especially, and you would notice this in my channel as well, that I'm not really doing that much anymore, and it's been a conscious effort. So one, it's because I'm changing the way I'm delivering content. I want to do the studio-based content a lot more for motorcycle content, but also other topics as well. And I've talked about this, so if you watch that. But also it's because one of the reasons is to not make unnecessary journeys that I don't have to. And I may in the future make content. And one of the reasons I was able to make so much content, and for the last 2 or 3 years, actually what I was doing, I was making my content, my YouTube videos, whilst I was on the motorcycle, whilst I was going somewhere anyway. So I already had it in my mind that I was stopping making unnecessary journeys. I was making the content as I was going somewhere as well. So that journey had dual purpose, triple purpose, I should say. So what I would do, so I'd pick a journey that I would be either going to work or something like that, or I would be going to see some friends or something like that. And I would say, right, I'm going to set that journey. I'm going to make this video, and I will try and make 2, 3, 4 videos at different points along that journey, and then space them out as well. So that's, I was already starting to do that. So I was using my motorcycle less just for video production. It became multiple uses, as it were. But now I'm kind of saying, well, I'm not going to use my motorcycle just to make motorcycle content. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, but I'm not going to use it. And this is talking about saving money, saving money all over the place. And this is, the point is the way you combat this, high prices, obscene prices of fuel, and where energy companies are earning obscene amounts of money, obscene amounts of profits, where people are having to pay high fuel prices, high energy prices for their home, all that sort of stuff. The way you stop it is by using less, hit them where it hurts a little bit. That's the only way, that's the only thing you can do. Because they're not going to listen to you. If the governments aren't going to listen to you to bring prices down, They don't care, because all of a sudden, whilst they might say to you and I, oh, we're trying to combat this. Now, if you really wanted to try and combat this, first of all, you would attack the energy companies and say, pay the taxes that you're supposed to do. Then you would tell them to dramatically reduce their prices or subsidize the prices as well, with heavy cutbacks. Then you would say, okay, let's look at the petrol and diesel discrepancy in this country, for example, and then let's make it a lot cheaper for commercial operators to move products around, so it's anti-inflationary. All these things add up. All these things add up that a government can do, and energy companies can do. But until they do that, we as the public, we can't do anything. So if we have to make journeys, then we have to use fuel, right? So it depends what kind of fuel you're going to use. So you got the option, you either stick with internal combustion engines, petrol or diesel, or you go the electric route. And you kind of, the green argument goes out the window. It really is about pounds, dollars and shekels. It's about how much you can afford. Can you afford a new vehicle to go in a different direction? Can you afford to stick with petrol or diesel? Or can you, does it make sense economically for you to go electric vehicle? And it could be that if you're only charging your vehicle at home, you might be able to invest in some kind of solar. You have to look at this as a whole package, not about just saving money just by charging your electric vehicle at home. You've got to change your whole usage at home and maybe look at solar energy as well to help supplement what you're using at home as well. So it becomes a huge subject, and say this is the only way you're going to be able to stop the huge obscene profits by oil companies and energy companies is by using less. But the problem is the less they use, the less, and this is on a global level, the less they use or the less you use, the less is sold. In the end of the day, we only know that fuel prices are going to go up and up and up. So you've got to kind of make that decision at some point. Do you use that as a luxury item? Does petrol and diesel mobility become a luxury item? Is it something that we have to do, or is it something that they need to completely change the way they're talking about this? There's enough fuel, there's enough oil in the world, to carry on. But there's this big green agenda for electric vehicles and all that sort of stuff. So they need to make it a lot cheaper for everybody to transition over. They need to build up the infrastructure, and they need to do something about the here and now, about petrol and diesel, to bring it down. And not just petrol and diesel, gas prices, all this sort of stuff. And the problem is when you've got conflicts going on that directly affect this, but when you've got other nations like the Gulf states like Saudi Arabia and stuff like that, but not only them, all oil producing nations in the world, the United States, the UK, Norway, whatever, Holland, I believe, are oil producing as well. All of these countries that produce oil, they've got to look at themselves and say, okay, well, we've got to think less about a business, but we've got to think about our nation. We've got to think about a community, and that's where I land on this. And we're already going to see a lot more nationalism now. We're going to see a lot more nationalism in terms of economic nationalism, where countries and companies, countries or governments will say, we've got to provide resources for our own country. We've got to supply from within rather than import. And this is going to be happening. It's already started happening. But in terms of energy production, there's got to be a lot more that individual countries can do to generate their own energy. And if you are not a gas producer, in other words, or oil producer, in other words, you have to import anything, the only way you're going to do this is to offset. You need to invest in renewable energies, wind, solar, whatever, hydro. That kind of thing. That's the only way you're going to be able to do this to reduce it. You're still going to be a net importer of gas and oil, but then you're going to have to look at global markets. And this is what the United States have been trying to muscle in on, in terms of, there is a problem, obviously, with Russia, Ukraine. There's a huge problem in terms of that. managed to get through the winter for the most part. Now they've muscled in and trying to push their oil and gas all over the world. But there's got to be a point where, you know, oil producing countries of the world are kind of, you can't say, it'd be difficult to force them to reduce their prices, but there's got to be somewhere where the world collectively says we're not paying these prices anymore. We're going to have a demand, you know, problem for this. Holland do a lot of fracking. Yeah, look, the problem is, because of these such high prices of oil and gas, the whole discussion about fracking has come up again. The whole discussion about different ways of producing energy has raised its head, and not only in terms of renewable green energy, but also, well, how green is it in terms of, because you've got to build the wind turbines, you've got to build the solar panels, so there's always environmental impact on that, of course. But then you've got to talk about other ways of extracting gas, other ways of extracting oil, you know, what the implication is of that. There's always a huge argument. So, you know, would I much prefer oil producing countries to just reduce their prices and just say, we can, you know, from a moral point of view, we cannot keep on charging this much price, and when we are profiteering so much where people around the world are suffering. That just doesn't work for me. It just doesn't work. But the problem, I don't know what the answer is, because it'd be very hard to say to a company, no, reduce your prices. You've got to reduce less profits. They're going to say no. You say, right, okay, when we'll charge you. We'll charge you then. You know, we'll tax you more. That's the only way you're going to do it. You know, so it's a huge story, isn't it? It's a huge thing to debate, really, but it just goes on and on. Okay, next story here. I'd say I went off on a bit of a ramble there, but I kind of, the more I look at this, the more I feel quite passionate about this. Here's another product here from Kais, who I featured last winter. A lot of their products, I was one of their sort of riders, used it. It was okay. It was okay product for the most part, but they've got a new product in the form of the G102 heated inner glove, aimed at protecting a wearer's hands on and off the motorcycle here. Where am I? Wrong one. There we go. The Kais hidden gloves keeps your hands warm whether you're on a motorcycle. Yeah, so basically you put this on in a glove and you just chart it up. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I found with Kais is that the great products or decent products, but I think sometimes it was just a bit, the cabling, and it didn't all work with each other very, very well, in terms you have had functionality that you could change settings, let's say on your jacket or on your gloves, but then you tried to connect them, then you tried to connect it to your bike, and it was all a bit, it didn't quite work well. I mean, maybe this is different now, and maybe they got different products, but like Visadano doing a little feature on there, go fill your boots and reading it. Okay, next story here. This is the LS2 launches new Gara winter motorcycle boot. Motorcycle boot has been released by LS2 called the Gara, aimed at wintry conditions without sacrificing impact protection. Okay, this is interesting. Yeah, okay. So it's a short ankle boot, or just over the ankle boot. I mean, I kind of like these over ankle boots anyway. I quite like them. It's certified to EN 13634-2 2017. Yeah, looks. I mean, if you like that style, I don't particularly like the style, but you know, it's good. Yeah, it's going to have side impact protection there as well. Obviously, it's going to be fully waterproof, you would imagine. Yeah, all right. And the last story here is from BSA. BSA, obviously, British motorcycle manufacturer. Well, they're not really. They're Indian, owned by Maharaj. They've they're pushing out their bikes through a Bristol dealership, Fowler's, and they're basically saying for the first time in 50 years they're going on, and it's so it started the reproduction in 2021. Following the acquisition of BSA by classic legends Mahindra, Mahindra in 2016, and the launch of the brand new Golf Run 21, production has restarted, and Fowler's has become an official BSA dealer for the Bristol once again. The dealer will begin selling BSA models once again this year. Yeah. Yeah, they're still talking about the Gold Star as a new bike. I mean, I kind of raised this as a question a while ago to see, well, actually, is it a new bike, and when is this bike coming out? And some bikes have been delivered. It seems to be very, and I know COVID and supply chain issues affected a lot of motorcycle production, of course, or new motorcycles coming to the market. And I think possibly they did definitely wait for the right time to release it properly, but it seems as if maybe they're releasing it properly now. I mean, I don't really know the full story there in terms of BSA, but if you like that bike, there was a new bike. This is like a scrambler version at the motorcycle show. Whether that is going to come to market, who knows? We'll see. Let's just have a look at the latest news here. There's a new rendering for a CB750R. Let me just have a look here. What's this one? Parallel twin. Yeah. Yes. So the Honda launching the CB750 Hornet and the Transalp marks a significant step in revamping its middleweight platform, but could the naked and adventure machine be joined in the range by a sports bike in years to come? So basically they're talking about the 750 class engine size, but they're looking at a sport bike, and they've kind of released or leaked some renderings here. Let me just talk about this here. Good morning, TM13A. How are you? So this is some renderings here. I mean, this is all just renderings. It doesn't mean anything. It could, this kind of bike could come out next year, the year after. Who knows? It's one of these things, isn't it? You got a kind of platform, or you got an engine that you're bringing out, like a parallel twin, in this case, a 750, that's going into the Honda Hornet and also into the Transalp, and these are coming out now. They're there now. Transalp is already here. The Hornet is just on its way very soon. So basically, they're 2023 bikes, right? And this we're talking about. So this midweight, they've kind of got it sus now at Honda. They've also got that kind of mini adventure bike and the scrambler variant of the 500 as well, so they're blocking up holes or blocking leaks in the market where they're not really that strong, if you like. Where here you've got a 750 class of motorcycle, but they're saying, well, actually we could bring in a sports bike. Well, back in the day when I was growing up, or maybe possibly into my late teens, into my early 20s, was the 750, and maybe even later on, it wasn't really about the 1000cc bikes or 1100cc bikes or something. Well, it was, of course, and there was if you got the slab side GSXR, Suzuki, you've got the FZR, the Genesis, the X-Up from Yamaha, Kawasaki, Honda, whatever. So the sports, but actually, the 750 was the bike to have because it was ultra fast, ultra nimble, great round a track. I said this before. I had a chat with some Suzuki test riders years ago. This was, and I always thought the 750 was a better track bike for the everyday rider. And I always thought the 1000cc Suzuki was fantastic, but you had to be at a really certain level to get that difference, that small difference on the track, in normal hands, as it were. And they said, they said their choice would be the 750, and I was like kind of taken aback. I was like, oh, really? Maybe people agree with me. I don't know. But anyway, so my point was that at the time, Kawasaki, Suzuki, Honda as well, and Yamaha, from the Japanese, they had really good 750s at the time, especially Kawasaki and especially Suzuki. Suzuki I thought was and Kawasaki I thought was great, those 750s. 750 sports bikes I'm talking about, or 750 sporty bikes. And they were fantastic, really, really great bikes. And if you were back in the day, you look back into that era, some fantastic bikes. And maybe this is Honda's way of saying, well, look, let's just bring this back. We can give you a really good sports bike here that is going to be great in sports bike styling, but we're going to bring it back to the 750 era. So interesting. Interesting to see if anything comes of that. Well, whether it does or not, who knows. But let me just get rid of that. Just see what other stories out here. Let me just bring that over here so you can see more of my looks here. Yeah, there's nothing really going on here. Let's just look at Aprilia. There's not a lot going on there. Yeah, the Aprilia doing a lot more testing, a lot of testing for MotoGP right now, of course. I talked about the Aprilia RS440 that they've seen spotted in China, whether they think that's a new one as well. There's obviously the variable valve timing of the new Aprilia V4. So that's that. BMW. Anything on the BMW pages? Not a great deal. Yeah, just nothing there. And we've got, let's have a look here. Nothing. Yeah, a couple of days ago, Ducati announced a turn-by-turn navigation for the 2023 Desert X Diaval V4. I'd say lots of people certainly in the ADV world. Well, maybe not people in the ADV world. Probably that's wrong to say. Maybe what I'm talking about is the motorcycle press or motorcycle publications from around the world. They're highly tipping the Ducati Desert X to be the bike of 2023. Okay, maybe not the bike in terms of all bikes, but some are saying yes, no, in terms of all bikes it's going to be the best bike, but certainly in the ADV world, in the adventure off-roady, on-road world, whatever you want to call it, this is the bike. So you know, we'll see what happens there. Harley Davidson, still quite a few, it's interesting, still quite a few. Scoot, goodbye. Thanks for joining. Still quite a few stories about the financial position of Harley Davidson in terms of good versus bad. Is it real? Is it not real? You know, stock prices going up and up and up. They're doing so well. And then I've seen other reports where saying, well, this is not the whole picture, which is my argument. It's not the whole picture. You've got to see, you know, this is all based on last year and the launch that they've just had and the build up to the launch. This is why there was a lot of market, and also rising prices. Inflation means basically higher profitability, right? We'll see how, you know, how that works out for a lot of people there. Let me just see if I can do this. Hold on 1 second. Wrong one. That one, is it? Oh, there we go. I can see something different. 1 second. There we go. Right. Oh, I'm using a different system now. There we go. Right. There we go. So anyway, I've just put my editing system on studio mode so I can line up something ready to come in, so I can see what's coming in better. Okay, yeah, so nothing really with Harley Davidson, just this sort of stuff, let's say, over the weekend. I wouldn't be surprised if more stories are going to come out this week from them. Honda, not a great deal. Them as well. So it's say Monday morning, so not really the greatest of mornings for news. I say there was a few stories over the weekend. I think there's lots of rumours. There's lots of rumours coming out this weekend. Since Friday, lots of rumours for the bike manufacturers and just stuff in general. Kind of, you know, we moved into February now, so there's going to be a lot of. Let me just try and get the general feed here. There's going to be a lot of reawakening, isn't there? There's going to be a lot of people getting back on bikes, but also not just on a weekend pleasure thing, but also on a daily ride. And I've kind of noticed it the last week or so, more bikes on the road as well. But also, but events will start, you know, coming up as well. Then as more and more people think about getting out on the bikes, and they start buying bikes as well. Here we go. TM39 HG, I can see having a good year for profit, perhaps. Yeah. Per sale, but overall unit sales will be interesting to see. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? It's you know, what the market seems very buoyant. The market seems very optimistic, you know, in terms of the way they're valuing the company and everything like that. But I suppose, and there's always going to be a sudden groundswell of enthusiasm anytime a manufacturer brings out new models or releases new, regardless of price, regardless of that, regardless of what I perceive as value or whatever. It doesn't make. There's always going to be an interest. There's always going to be a groundswell. So this is, I've talked about this a few weeks ago. The groundswell of interest usually means that supports a stock price. It inflates the stock price, right? But you're right. It's how many bikes will be sold in this current climate and everything like that. There's always going to be bike sales. There's always going to be manufacturers that will sell their bikes, but it's the numbers, isn't it? It's the numbers. We'll see. And you're right. How many will be new customers? And how many will be customers ditching other brands to move over to Harley-Davidson? How many would choose Harley-Davidson in this discussion here as their first manufacturer of choice? What would be the demographics? Will it still be older people, or will it be younger people? Will younger people find a way into the Harley-Davidson ownership? What do companies like Harley-Davidson or Indian, or like BMW or Triumph or Ducati or whomever it is, right? What do they have to do to attract younger riders to be able to afford them? Well, I think Triumph, BMW, KTM have already addressed this. And certainly Honda, Kawasaki, Yamaha and Suzuki have definitely addressed this from years and years and years, because they make cheap motorcycles. Triumph, KTM and BMW have entered partnerships with Indian motorcycle manufacturers to produce 250, 400 cc's, as you saw with my Triumph Bajaj story earlier on. So they're in that market. They're producing smaller motorcycles. That means that they're going to sell a lot more of those bikes, and that's where the market is right now all over the world. People are really interested. I'm kind of bringing out stories of different requirements for small cc bikes, let's say like the courier business from the other day. How there's been a mass expansion in the demand of small cc motorcycles, and they're wanting the motorcycle industry to pump more in. So it's an interesting time, I think, for the companies. So, and you're absolutely right. TM13, in that of whatever bikes they sell, if they're selling on those profit margins because the price is so high, it'd be interesting to see, actually, are they making the same amount of profit on an individual motorcycle, let's say on the same model, this year as they did, let's say, 2 or 3 years ago? Is it the same profit, or have they increased their profits? But the problem is they would have increased their costs as well. So you kind of wonder what's, to offset their costs, their per unit costs, they're going to have to increase their prices anyway. So you would imagine, but that's the nature of business. In order to always try and minimize your costs, and for companies, certain companies, let's say like Harley-Davidson, it's a hard sell to try and move production to other countries, let's say, in its entirety, when you've got that brand that's so much associated with the identity, the national patriotic identity of the bulk of its buyers in the US market. So they're a bit of an oddity, I think, in terms of like that. Indian, I suppose, are similar, although I'm not 100% sure exactly where the bulk of Indian bikes are produced. This is Indian motorcycles. I think the bulk is still, but obviously, all motorcycle manufacturers deal on a global level and they source parts from all over the world. And you can never say a bike is just British or just German or just Italian or just American. They're all, but however, in terms of companies like Harley-Davidson, Indian, for example, I use those two as examples only, until they really generate small cc bikes, then you've got to wonder. Now, Harley-Davidson, as you know, as I said for months and months, weeks and weeks, that they have entered production collaboration with QJ Motor from China. We know, we've seen all the pictures, right? I've shown you all the pictures, I've shown you all the details, giving you the specs, giving you the facts. They've also entered partnership collaboration with Hero Motorcorp from India to produce other motorcycles, cheap, inexpensive ones. But they haven't released those. They haven't released any news on those officially. And you kind of wonder why not. So until they do that officially, then you kind of have to think of them at their current position as a current company. You've got to be concerned. However, this is where the market may be artificially being buoyant about Harley-Davidson as a company, where they're saying, well, actually, whilst it isn't public knowledge, we know that Harley-Davidson have entered international collaboration with a Chinese motorcycle manufacturer, with an Indian motorcycle manufacturer, and we know that they will be releasing within the next year, 2 years, small CC bikes that will generate hundreds of thousands of unit sales potentially in a global market. That means there's going to be a big revenue boost. So that's where we talk about the misleading stock prices of a company. It's not necessarily about how the company is doing. It's about how the company is projected to do, and based upon what information they believe they have at the time. If you know what I mean. Yeah, and I suppose, and again, this is when I talk about people who throw stocks and shares at me and percentage increases, and I kind of have to bite my tongue a little bit, and I have to bite my lip, because I think you're just throwing stuff out there, but you don't really want to analyze what this means and why things are happening in the way they're happening. And it could say, until we know that they are definitely going to sell cheaper bikes and where they're going to sell them, and are they going to be competitive, we don't know if a company is going to do well in the next year or so. Yeah, but there we go. My Harley Pup, Mr. Harley Pup, hello there. Hello, how are you? Be interested to see how the new HD collaboration with the new models targeting the Indian market goes. Yeah, exactly right. That style of bike may lead to some new innovation that they introduce to attract new riders, something similar to the Bonneville, because their current range is too pricey for new riders. I agree. Absolutely right. And I think if they go down that kind of line, a flat tracker style, Bonneville style, retro roadster style, I think that's going to appeal to a lot of people, and I think it's going to appeal to a lot of the V-twin world, where people are thinking, actually, I like a bit of that, so I like a bit of different. And guess what? It's Harley Davidson, and I don't care it's built in China or built in India or whatever. There'll be a percentage of people, one, who don't care about the Harley Davidson tradition, but also with the other care that maybe do care about it, but they also think this is a damn fine bike, I'm going to go for that. Why not? Yeah, it sounds a bit of fun. It's a bit of fun. It's a fun bike to have, in the garage. It's a fun bike to, take with you on the back of the trailer when you want to go for a little vacation somewhere. Instead of taking your big Harley with you take your smaller Harley with you. It's your traveling companion. TM13A, yeah, BMW seems to be going the right way. I think so. I think, I've been paying more and more attention to BMW the last few years, and I think that the way they've operated, and not just BMW, I took, Triumph and KTM and places like that, it's no surprise that they're doing quite well. There's no surprise that BMW and KTM have seen a big sales of the last 2022. And they're producing bikes for fun for the Indian, Chinese market and those sort of hookups as well. And how these bikes are coming into the European market the last few years, and how popular they are, and it's interesting to see. It's interesting to see how these companies are. What you can't really tell what their strategy is, but you kind of look at, say, what bikes are they producing, what collaborations they're trying to do, where are they shifting their production, what components are they using, and you say, yeah, okay, I can see it. I can see what they're trying to do. They're looking at their market. their potential market. And this is where I've said in the past that companies like Honda, they look at their potential market, the whole market, the globe, the whole market. And the whole market is that, that Harley Davidson possibly don't in this way. But Honda, let's say, as an example, they'll say, well, we've got people who potential riders, who only want to ride really fast sports bikes. So they're going to be really expensive machines, right? Or high technology machines. We've got other people who want to ride big off-road ADVs. We've got another type who want to go on the big grand tour, right? All these are going to be satisfied by high performance, high quality, expensive motorcycles to buy, let's say, right? Whatever. But they're going to be quality motorcycles, right? And then they say, well, what about everybody else? What about everybody else? What about people who want maybe a little bit of that, but they can't afford it? And they say, well, we'll plug that gap with this type of motorcycle. And then the question is, well, what about if people can't even afford that, or they don't want to do that kind of riding? You say, okay, we'll produce another line. So what about people who just ride in the city? Oh, we'll produce little scooters. But what about people who want to ride in the city, but they don't want to ride a little scooter? They want to ride something that's just got a little bit more power. We'll ride. Do you know what I mean? So what they do, they look at everything in the market, and they say, we'll plug that hole, we'll produce a bike that can fit that need, we'll produce a bike that. And many, many other motorcycle manufacturers, including Suzuki, Kawasaki, and Yamaha, but, BMW, KTM, whatever, they don't do it to that level. And some companies don't do it at all. So I'm not talking about whether you like a Honda or not. I'm just talking about the way they address the market, the global market. Many companies don't do that, and it's but this is why companies like that thrive and get bigger and bigger and bigger. And this is why companies like that can produce the big sports bikes, the big tourer, the big adventure bike, and everything that not many people can afford and not many people buy. And they can also invest in wet dream motorcycles that don't sell very well. Honda have done loads of these over the years. They invest loads of money, loads of stuff into R&D, into big bikes that never sell, right? Complete flops. But they can do that because at the base of their motorcycle production pyramid, is underpinned by the sales of hundreds of thousands, of millions of motorcycles that are cheap scooters, cheap 50cc, 100cc, 125cc for the global market. And that's why they can do it. And that's how they do it. And this is why other manufacturers have been adopting similar kinds of strategy. And let's not make no bones about it. Manufacturers copy each other in terms of strategy, in terms of even designs. Even they look at something and think, that's very clever, we'll do our own similar thing. Or let's say the likes of the Chinese and the Indian motorcycle manufacturers, especially Chinese motorcycle manufacturers, they kind of copy like for like. And this was always levied at Japanese motorcycle manufacturers in the sort of 60s, 70s, 80s, especially 70s, especially. But they're saying, well, okay, you just copied everything from the Western world, really. Well, fine, but they copied it, improved on it, and made it better. But the Chinese are doing exactly the same. They've been many people, many publications and online sources are looking at the Chinese movement, and they're saying, well, actually, this is exactly what Japan did a few years ago. And now you got Japanese and Indian motorcycle manufacturers, but certainly Japanese, they're producing bikes in China. There isn't this anti-China feeling that many others would have you believe. There's lots of collaboration with Chinese motorcycle manufacturers. So, it's there. It's there to be had. It's there to be seen by everybody. But anyway, so let's have a look here. There's no more comments coming through. That's good. Okay, well, listen, that's I suppose that's it for today. That's the daily the Daily Biker, the Bike Mag show for a Monday morning. And say not a great deal of stories to come out, as I say. Just to get the latest update here. Yeah, not a great deal of news, but it's interesting times. I think it's interesting times for everybody, for us all, but not only in terms of how we navigate the new financial economic landscape that affects us all. Doesn't matter where you are in the world, it affects us all. Your ability to be able to buy products in the future and all that sort of stuff, but also be interesting to see what new motorcycles come to market this year and how well they do, what their sales are, how well people receive them. I'm really interested from a motorcycle enthusiast point of view. All the motorcycles that I report on from, let's say, India and from China, if they do make their way to the British market or European market, and how good they are or how bad they are, you just don't know. And okay, from just a purely interested point of view, I'm just really interested to see how a company like Harley Davidson, for example, if they do produce these small bikes, will they ever come out? When will they come out? When will they make the announcement? And what will be the reaction to that announcement? From various people. All the bikes that are coming out now. Is that how many people are? I see online people saying, "Yeah, I bought a 2023 Harley Davidson. Great." There's nothing wrong with that, and it's brilliant. I always say to people, if you want to buy something and you got the money for it, you can afford it, fill your boots, go and do it. But I just wonder, as the months go on, how people feel about this, how people feel about not just Harley, but Indian, but BMW, all these other manufacturers, how they're going to feel about it, how many sales are going to go. Debenham Dave, hello, good morning. For me, as a fan of the bike, I will. For me, as a fan of the bike, I will. Do what? What are you going to do? Sorry, you lost me. For me, as a fan of the bike, well, carry on riding. Well, yeah, I'm sure. I'll always be riding, but it depends what I'll be riding, I suppose. Or how often I'll be riding a particular type of bike. Maybe I've got a couple of bikes here in the workshop. I got one started up yesterday. If you saw my short, I thought, let me see if I can start the thing. I'll put it on charge, and it fired right up. So yeah, I had to coax it a little bit with a choke, but it started right up. Now they got the other one, the Kawasaki project, which will I ever finish that? Be interested to see how the new Triumph Street Triple sells at plus 11 grand. Yeah. I wonder how many plus £10,000 motorcycles will be sold this year, or whether, as I think, and the indication that I get, or the feeling that I get, is that lots of manufacturers are trying to push back down towards the 500cc, sub 750cc, let's say, but 400cc, 500cc, 250cc. There seems to be a lot more manufacturers trying to produce like 300cc bikes, let's say. They're trying to parallel twins, a lot of parallel twin bikes. There seems to be a bit of a movement from many manufacturers to push it into that general direction. So I just wonder how many will be sold, and how many under 10,000 will be sold, and will these be the bikes of choice for many people? If they come out with the right one, personally, I would be going, do you know what? Yeah, I'd be interested. I was always interested in the Royal Enfield Himalayan, for example. I think it's a great bike. It's a great bike, and it's a cheap bike. But there's lots of other great cheap bikes around at the moment. You don't always have to buy the big expensive ones. So, but I think I agree. How many will be sold of the quality bikes? Triumph Street Triple quality bikes, right? But how many would be sold? How many would be sold of the Speed Triple as well? Excuse me, sorry, frog in the throat. But anyway, I think that's it for today. That's the Daily Biker. That's the Bike Mag show. It's been emotional as always, and all I can say is onwards and upwards. Onwards and upwards. There's going to be another live show coming out soon, I'm sure. Devon and Dave, personally prefer to go for a better performing bike, but second hand. Sorry for an unclear message. No, not at all. Yeah, do you know what, Dave? I'm kind of the same. I'm exactly the same. I'd rather go for a really good second hand bike that is, you know, of real great quality and performance than buying a brand new bike. Definitely. Right. And with that, all I can say is it's been emotional. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining. If you're just joining, obviously go back, watch the whole show again, and let us know. Tell your friends and everything. Let us know if you like this kind of content, if you like this kind of format, and everything like that. And I'll see how it goes. I may come on later on for a shorter show if there's some breaking news coming out again as well. I was kind of primed with a couple of from a couple of emails late last night saying watch out for tomorrow, there could be some news. So I was kind of preempting the show to see if it would be released whilst I was on air, as it were. Is it on air? I don't know. You know what I mean. But it hasn't materialised. So I don't know what the news is. I don't know what the story is. But I say if it does come out, I'll pay attention to it and maybe I'll come out with it later on for you. But anyway, it's been emotional. Thanks very much, and I'll catch you again. Ta-da. Oh, wrong one.